super advanced exercise that if you take it slowly enough, uh, really anyone can do. It just takes a little bit of patience, um, or a lot of patience, depending on which exercise. I had a little bit of difficulty with one of these. Um, so that being said, let's get right into it. But first, we have to discuss a couple things about the paper that I have provided. There's exactly one paper for everyone. There's no clef. There's no notes. There's just 5 lines on a staff, and the first note is always starting on the first line of the staff. So if we look more closely, what we really want to see is how many notes up or down we are going. So let's take a look at example number 1. Okay, here's example number 1. And we can see that starting on the lowest note, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes going up, and throughout the rest of the exercise, it's those same 5 notes up and down, but the rhythm gets progressively faster. And it's that speeding up of the rhythm that is the point of this exercise. So we are working out the fingers, and if you start on really any note you want, and you go up 5 notes in a scale, preferably, but it could be any set of notes. It doesn't really matter, as long as you're doing it repetitively, and as long as you're following the rhythm strictly using a metronome. Then you're teaching your fingers how to feel the time differently. And that's the point here, is we want our fingers to be able to access rhythms in a way that is clear, and making them do different things next to each other is how you do that. So I'm going to play through these examples, and every time I play through an example, I'm going to start on B flat, and I'm going to use the notes in the B flat scale, and only those notes. So if you want to play along with me, the concert B flat scale. So for flutes and pianos, etc., that's a B flat. For clarinets, trumpets, whatnot, that's a C and the C scale. And for E flat instruments like alto saxophones and alto clarinets, that's the G scale. And I'm going to play through the example once, starting on B flat. Then I'm going to shift down, and then do it again, and then shift down one more note. So I'm starting on B flat, then I'm starting on A, then I'm starting on G, and I do it 3 times, but you can do it many times. And the point of starting on a different note and then playing the same number of notes is we're training the fingers to move on different parts of the beat, and to feel different parts of the beat, and each finger is changing where and when it has to move and how it has to move, and for each exercise what kind of rhythm it has to feel. Again, this is all about feeling different rhythms and feeling time differently. So here's example number 1. Right. That one is the simplest one, and I think it's the simplest one for a few different reasons. I think the easiest rhythmic change to make is going equally twice as fast. when you have to change to a different sort of feel, like triplets or quintuplets, then it becomes a little bit more complicated. So example 2 is also the same idea. It's one thing going up. We're starting on one note and we are going up 7 notes, and we're going a quarter and then 2/8 and a quarter and then 2/8 and then a quarter. Then we've made our 7 notes. Then we're going back down. Then it does the same exact thing, but twice as fast. So here's example number 2. Okay, for the next example, we finally start doing some different rhythms. So we're going to have eighth notes, we're going to have triplets, and we're going to have 16th notes. You may or may not be able to hear from my playing through of this. Sometimes I have a hard time stretching the triplets out enough, and I rush through the first couple. So it takes a couple reps to get used to this. And I'm going to suggest, if you have a hard time with the rhythm, try to keep going and try to adjust as you can hear it, if you can hear whether or not you're off. If you feel like the first triplet was too fast, then regroup on that quarter note and try to wait for the next beat and try to stretch it out a little bit more. Or if it was too slow, try to jump on the next beat and speed them up a little bit. It's a process of trial and error. You have to listen to yourself and make small adjustments where you need to. So here's example number 3. Okay, moving along to what I think is the most difficult exercise on this page. I had to noodle around with it a little bit. While I've done some of these personally, I feel like throwing in a curveball can be a wake-up call, or it can help you, can be a challenge if you think the first 3 were too easy. This one, I start on a high B flat, but I still work my way down. And it's working out the interval of a third. We're skipping notes instead of just playing linear like all the other examples. So that's one of the things that makes it a little more difficult. And when we change rhythms, it's not just a carbon copy, or it's not exactly the same. When we do the eighth notes, we're going down and then up. We're skipping down and then stepping up, and skipping down and stepping up. When we go to the triplets, we're oscillating between the first 2 notes. We're skipping down and then skipping back up before we step down to the next note. So work this one out slowly if you make it this far. Have fun with this one. Here it is, example number 4. gay. Okay, here's the next example. This one uses the widest range, so make sure you count your notes carefully. Although if you're trying to feel the rhythms and you're dividing the beats accurately, you're going to land on the correct number of notes. So we start on a quarter note, and then we go up in 2/8 notes, then 3 triplets, then 4 16th notes, and then we land on a quarter note at the top. And it ends up being more than an octave. It's an octave plus a fourth. So if you have a hard time playing over a wide range, this one will kick you in the rear end. Here's example number 5. Okay, this last example is a lot like the first example, first exercise. It mixes, though, 8th notes, triplets, and 16th notes. In order to make it fit, there's different time signatures, and that's really just to make the rhythms line up more clearly so that you can see them. Again, if you're doing this and you have a hard time fitting the triplets in right away, try to keep going and make small adjustments. Try to listen to yourself and stretch or squeeze, and if you do this enough, and if you do this starting on different notes and using different scales, it gets better over time. It just takes a little bit of patience. So here is exercise number 6. All right. So as always with exercises like this that have many parts, I would recommend taking one and doing that one for a whole week or a couple weeks before you move on to the next. We're not in a hurry. As I always say, it's not a race to see who gets there first. It's a race to see who gets there with the best technique, and that takes time and patience. So go out into the world and work on your rhythms and your time. If you have any questions about this concept, go ahead and put them in the comments. If you got something out of this, go ahead and subscribe, because there will be more videos exactly like this, or better or worse, depending on your opinion of my stuff. Otherwise, have a nice day.